The end of this passage used to be a little odd to me, and it kind of didn't sit right with me. Mary says yes to God and yes to this awesome responsibility. And in response, the angel just leaves. He just takes off. I used to think that this would be a good time for the heavens to open and the angels to sing this mighty chorus of joy at the news that Jesus is coming to earth. But now I feel a little bit differently with this ending, having sat with it for a while and read it many times. I think it is exactly like what happens when we decide to follow the plan that God has for our lives. And I appreciate that it happened for Mary that way too. Because that's our challenge when it comes to understanding Mary and all of the characters we're going to talk about through this series. It's to see ourselves in their stories. For Mary's story, it's to hear the call of God in our lives, and although we might start out skeptical, the hope is that we too will feel God's favor and grace and trust God enough to say, "Here am I, the servant of the Lord, let it be with me." And when you do that, there usually aren't angels that are going to start singing. Often a yes to God is whispered in the quiet of a worship service or in the calm of prayer time, or even acknowledged silently in the depths of our hearts where no words are spoken out loud at all. Angels may not be singing when you say to God, "Here I am, let it be with me," but I believe that God is. God is singing. I believe God rejoices every single time one of his precious children says yes to the plans that God has in store for them. Because what God has in store for us is far better than anything we could have planned for ourselves. One final thing about Mary's story that I think is really important. Her journey to peace, her transition from that "how can it be" to "let it be," did not mean that her life was about to get easy. Saying yes to God doesn't mean the challenges go away. Mary was still likely to face ridicule for being unmarried and pregnant. She still had no idea if Joseph would still agree to marry her now that she was carrying a child who wasn't his. And oh, by the way, the child that's not his, that child's the son of God, so no pressure there. Lots of challenges, right? And when we say, "Let it be with me," to God, our challenges don't go away either. Sometimes saying "let it be" to God means changing dreams, like choosing a different career or a different way to build a family. Sometimes saying "let it be" to God means finding peace and knowing that God is preparing a place in heaven for you or for your loved ones so that healing can happen there and not here. Sometimes saying "let it be" to God means letting go of something that you have been carrying for far too long. Giving that situation or that person or that thing over to God and acknowledging that your role in all of that is prayer alone. Just because we find peace doesn't mean that the journey will be easy. That was never the promise. What the promise was is that God won't ever let us journey alone.